everybody. Welcome to Homeschool with Dustin, but we're at the school. I know last time we had one episode, and it was more Thorne talking to me during the pandemic about what I did to try to make myself a better wrestler and a better student of the game. But I have a student with me today who just recently debuted, graduated from the AIW Academy. We got Shaw Mason with me today.
Hey, how's it going, Dustin? Thanks for having me. Speaking of the pandemic.
The
pandemic is a blessing in and of itself, and I'm going to tell you why. Because of the pandemic, that is the reason why I got into pro wrestling.
Tell me about that. Why is that?
So the pandemic itself, I was in college wrestling, John Carroll University, and we got the call that everyone on campus had to go home. Obviously, that affected what we did in the wrestling room, and this actually happened for 2 consecutive seasons. And I had remembered a year prior going to an AIW event, specifically the one built to last in February 2019, 2020?
2019.
2019, yeah. And I just really distinctly remember loving it. A fan, Vin Case, shout out to him, got me into it. And I just remembered it, wanted to come try it, live my dream like everyone else wants to do. And I stuck with it. Obviously, when college wrestling picked up again, it was really hard to try to balance the schedule. But, you know, as time went on, I made it work.
You and I have talked about this a lot lately. We've had a lot of really good conversations lately about how you're trying to balance your wrestling schedule, your work schedule, your school schedule with professional wrestling. Tell us, like, what do you take from the wrestling room and bring here, and what do you bring from here to the wrestling room?
Well, natural ability is one, not being cocky.
Okay.
Just everything just falls into place where it should be when I'm moving out there, and I think that allows me to, at least for a lot of people, allows me to work better with them, be flexible. Whatever they want to do, I'm up for it, and I'm willing to protect everybody, including myself. Mentality, I really just want to be the best that I can be, help my partner. That a lot of those principles carry over from the wrestling room. And going back to what you're saying, juggling the schedule and everything, it's a huge cycle of you have to do A in order to do B and C and so on. But there's not anything I really want to give up. I want to do everything that I can because I love what I do, and I'm surrounded by a great group of people, both in AIW, college, family, whatever it is.
Awesome. So we're talking wrestling. I know that with me, a lot of what's helped me coming from wrestling. I have a little bit of a wrestling background. Did a little bit of grade school, a little bit of high school. Muscle memory helps so much for when some of the wrestling stuff. Anything like that? Anything you've done your entire life that you're just like, oh, this is the exact same thing. Like that happens a lot, right? In the ring, you're like, oh yeah, I know this feeling. I know the exact way to get out of this, and it looks better because you've done it in real life, we'll call it.
100%. And I think that's also what I wanted to build on about not natural ability. Muscle memory is actually a better term to use, and there's only very few things that you do in the ring that's just backwards. Maybe it's similar, but it's just the opposite side. Whereas to in college wrestling, say I do everything with my right, but certain things you do with your left, vice versa, whatever it is. Those are the only adjustments that I had to make. And once I made those, things started to become a little bit more fluid, I would say. So yes, contributes a lot.
So let's go to professional wrestling. Who are some people you watch that like we wouldn't expect? Like we obviously know like, oh, I watch Kurt Angle stuff because he's got the amateur. I watch Chad Gable because he's got the amateur. Who's like somebody that like we wouldn't expect Shaw Mason watches and goes, I'm gonna take something from this guy?
I love watching Randy Orton. I love the intensity. I love Randy Orton as a heel. I think 09 Randy Orton's probably one of the best heels to ever do it. So when I picture myself and I envision doing certain moves, I envision what would Randy do. I should put that on a t-shirt. What would Randy do? And obviously growing up, I really loved Rey Mysterio. I love practicing Rey Mysterio's moves, even though I probably will never do them in an AIW or anywhere on the independent scene. And Jeff Hardy is another one. These are childhood heroes growing up, as you can imagine. Currently, Chad Gable does cool things. Shelton Benjamin. I just see things, and if I want to try it, I try it. As simple as that, really.
Awesome.
Never know the name. I never know the name. Man, Dom's going to kill me.
You never know. Yeah, no, you never know the name.
So what's this thing this person do?
I saw Austin. What did you say earlier? I saw Austin from Rear Naked Choke. And Dom's like, I know what you're talking about. And that's okay.
If Dom wasn't here, I probably, no one would understand what Shawn Mason is talking about. So shout out to Dom.
So when did you start wrestling? Like, when did you start, amateur wrestling? When did you start?
I started amateur wrestling when I was 5. So that would be 2005. The winter of 2005, and I never stopped. My family, my aunts and uncles, 16 of them, all the boys in the family were amateur wrestlers, a couple state champs, a lot of state placers. So I just come from a wrestling family. I'm not maybe as highly decorative as some of my family members, but wrestling, you didn't really have a choice to do it, so you might as well just enjoy it. So that's where that all stemmed from.
So when did you start watching professional wrestling?
So I was 6 years old. It was actually just about a year later. I turned on the TV. The first match that I remembered seeing, it was on basic cable somehow, some way. Finlay versus Booker T on SmackDown. And I'm almost positive the Boogeyman was somehow a part of that scene as well. And I'm like, dude, this is awesome. I played SmackDown versus Raw 06. And I never went back. I think somehow, it may have been introduced sooner, especially with the video games. My neighbor had the video games and stuff, but ever since then, I never looked back, and I loved it. 07, SmackDown vs. Raw, 2007 was the best wrestling game in all of wrestling games. You heard it here first. I said it. Some agree, some do not.
So we're talking wrestling and wrestling. Now, I know, as somebody who was an amateur wrestler, again, I did a little bit, there's two types of wrestlers. There's people who hate professional wrestling because it's stupid, and then there's the people who do amateur wrestling because they like wrestling.
Yeah.
I think. So you said a lot of your family were wrestlers. Is anybody in your family a professional wrestling, or are they just all right, Shaw, what are you doing?
All right, so we will see what happens come Thanksgiving, what the reactions are, but thus far we have those aunts and uncles that support, that might laugh, they show up, and I respect that. And then there are definitely those uncles that maybe they came once just to laugh at me. My dad being one of them, and has not come back since, and that's totally fine, I guess. That was really hard to persuade them to come. It was really hard to justify what I was doing. Especially when I'm talking hey, I just came from wrestling. They're like, oh yeah, how was that? And then midway through the conversation, they realize I'm talking about pro wrestling, and they just get not interested into it, but that their whole lives are amateur wrestling. So
nobody in your family was into wrestling. It was just you. Obviously, I see your brother's here training right now.
Yeah.
Your brother's older than you. Was he into it at all, or did he get into it because you were into it and he was like, oh, okay?
So the brother training right now, actually, I just met not too long ago, but apparently he has loved wrestling his whole life, so it was a pretty common thing to share when we first met each other. Now my other 9 siblings, especially the boys, I think we all at least liked playing the video game at times. I would say they stopped after a certain point in their lives. I continued with it. I was probably about the only one to have loved it as long as I did. Still do. So to clearly answer your question, no, I was pretty much that guy for the longest time. Where they were mediocre fans, I would say.
I get it. I was the only. I mean, my dad liked it when I was younger, but so I'm significantly older than you. Well, I mean, sort of significantly.
Could be
when I grew up, my dad my dad watched it, but like that's like the early '90s, late '80s when like wrestling was cool.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, Hulk Hogan, and then like my dad kind of fell off, but like he'd still go with me like to shows or something because he was like he likes it. But then like at some point, everybody's just like, all right, is he gonna grow out of this? Is this a thing?
Yeah.
And like everybody's kind of left me by myself, and I would just, I'm sure you had plenty of nights where you're just sitting by yourself on like the only TV that nobody else was watching in a room that probably wasn't great to be watching anything in.
So
either cold or in your bedroom by yourself watching wrestling.
Most definitely. So for most of my life, we had one television, and I had to be really lucky to be in there by myself. Like I said, 9 siblings, some parents. If they came in, walked past, my dad would usually, I'm not going to say verbatim what he said, but he basically would be like, turn the channel.
My grandpa used to call it assholing.
Yeah, okay, since
So if you're watching assholing, and I'm like, it's wrestling, Grandpa.
Yeah.
Those are the same grandparents who, when Vince McMahon's limo exploded, they're like, did Vince McMahon really die? And I was like, okay, assholing, Grandpa.
Yeah, seriously, dude. No, but usually I'd go down the street to my longtime friend, current roommate, and watch it, whether he record it live, whatever it was. We had our own little trampoline gig. All the kids in the neighborhood, trampoline wrestling, whatever it was. Neighbors came over. Guy I shouted out before, Vin Case's little brother, best friend, got me into it as well. Dude, we just lived. We had wrestlers. We wrestled on a trampoline, watched wrestling, just lived, breathed, and we used to hit moves on the trampoline and actually hit them. Like the ankle lock stems far into Shawn Mason's childhood and was breaking ankles literally in and out of the ring. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
Yeah, that hurts.
Yeah.
That's the same thing. Backyard, a little bit of backyard stuff with my friends when I was younger.
Yeah. Except there's no ropes.
Yeah. So you guys never built a ring? It was always just trampoline?
There's no. You either tapped out or you found a way to get out of it. And there wasn't too many ways to get out of the ankle lock back at that age. I'll tell you.
Shawn Mason's ankle lock. It's been the strongest lock in the world. So we're gonna wind down. What's been your favorite part since you've debuted? You just debuted recently. So it's October, or it's November now. You debuted in September?
August 20th.
Yes. What's been your favorite moment since you've debuted in ring?
I love. Oh, in ring.
In ring. What's your favorite in-ring moment since you've debuted?
In-ring moment. I would say it's tied between 2 things. Maybe even 3. Whatever. We'll look at it. The first one being.
Let's hear all 3.
Fine. Number 1. When I hit my first Canadian Destroyer, and I hit it. I didn't even know that I hit it because like it's such a weird move to go through with, and I looked over. And I saw Caden, AIW fan, like, shake his head, like, not bad. Like, he did it. Like, he got excited. Like, and I'm like, dude, I just made that AIW fan, like something I did. Because that's huge for me. When my friends and family aren't there, my biggest fear is, like, yo, am I going to have anyone there to cheer? Whether it is or not, it's fine. But it's a rightful fear. Number 2 is, building off of that, when I wrestled Cisco for the second time, I looked around, and not only were my friends and family cheering, but longtime AIW fans were actually cheering as well. And that I took that in. I didn't really take it in when I debuted for my first time against Wes Barkley, but I finally got to take that in, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. This is what it's all about. And I would say my third thing that I really liked enjoying in the ring would probably be when I just dove onto Cisco outside of the ring, because I just went for it, like lights out. Like nothing fazed me. You could have done anything to me in that match, and I was just gonna go through with it because I was just locked in.
That's so another thing about the school. We don't practice dives very often because there's not a lot of space to. Did you do a dive before that, or just kind of go like, I think I can do it?
I think I can do it. Most things, for better or for worse, I think about. If I can't try it in here, I just think about it and envision myself doing it, and I just go for it. Hopefully Dom doesn't yell at me for that, but that's sometimes you just got to go for things.
Sometimes you just got to go for things. So, I asked your favorite, what outside of the ring, the past few months, what do you think is your biggest, like what surprised you the most outside the ring? Like, what do you think's made you grow? What do you think's like the hardest part of the whole thing? Like, outside of the ring, what have you really learned about yourself? Finally wrestling, getting out there, going to different shows, meeting different people.
That's exactly it. The answer to all your questions is traveling with the different wrestlers, different people, meeting the new people. It's like we're all here for one goal, and when you meet people that are playing the different roles, that are building the ring, that are working the concession stand, producing, wrestling, whatever it is, especially people that I have trained with at AIW, traveling with them, wrestling, and just putting on a show, it carries over to that amateur wrestling background. When you travel with a team and you go in, you compete, and you leave, it's just, I always like that. I think of us as a team, and I love those experiences because it's just the one thing that's been constant my whole life is just wrestling. So being able to be a team part of AIW is the best, and shout out to all the fans that show up.
All those fans show up. All right, so Shaw, it was a pleasure having you on Homeschool at the School. Homeschool at the School. Dom has his own show called School Sucks, and I feel like I'm intruding, but we didn't talk about training, and that's what Dom talks about.
Be a good collab.
So I tried to do something a little bit different than what Dom does. Any plugs? Anything you want to try to let people know? Where you at on the socials?
Socials, Instagram, Shaw Mason Wrestling, Facebook, Shaw Mason, Twitter, pretty sure it's Shaw Mason _.
Do you want to look that up?
Do I want to?
Nah, maybe you want to.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
We'll have him look it up. That way you guys can actually follow him and you're not like following some other Shaw Mason. Could be any other Shaw Mason.
Did you see that word that's on the back of my singlet? I feel like this is a great opportunity to...
I asked if you want any plugs.
I'm pretty
You're a
sure.
sponsored athlete. That's one thing you did go out and do. Like, most students wouldn't think, hey, let me go get a sponsor to get brand new gear made, and you got a sponsor to get brand new gear made.
Well, as you see on my Instagram and my Twitter, Shaw Mason _ Shaw Mason Wrestling on Instagram, The Exchange is actually on the back of my singlet. Shout out to The Exchange, the buy, sell, trade, music, movies, games, memorabilia, etc. All of the touch points. Great place, favorite place in this world to go to.
I probably spent more money at the Exchange than I spent at any other store in my entire life.
Yeah, well, I work there, and I lose money, I would say.
I feel you.
That's all I got for you. I want everyone to know that the Exchange is an amazing place. Go out there. AIW, an amazing place. It's just only right that those two are crossing paths somehow, some way.
I love that for you.
Thank you.
All right, Shaw, well, thank you. Thank you. This has been Homeschool at the School with Dustin Alberti. It's nice talking to you, Shaw.
Thank you. I appreciate it.